There's a view that, and it's a view I've often heard expressed in clubs when I've been round visiting them. What is the point of district? What's it all about? It's just jobs for the boys. Everybody moves seats every now and again, but it's the same people doing the same similar jobs. So what we want to do, the purpose of tonight, is to start unpicking some of that and talking to the people who are not members of district teams at the moment, to let them know what district's all about and what it does. So the starting point for that is I'm going to ask District Governor Eric if he would just spend a few minutes telling us actually what the district structure is all about and how what it looks like. If you would, Eric, please.
So my brief is to talk about what is district. Well, it's really a geographical area with 67 clubs and 1,500 Rotarians, but we don't use it quite in that way. The terminology district is used as being the team of people. It's a team of volunteers because we're all volunteers. It's just people who have actually volunteered to help to support everyone else in the district, to support the clubs and the members, to actually serve the community, to get their projects off the ground, to actually enjoy their Rotary, and to sort of oil the wheels of Rotary and make sure that everything goes smoothly and be a source of advice and guidance, really. It's also part of the sort of communication because obviously the clubs are part of a district, which is part of Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, which is then part of Rotary International. And there are sort of communications that come down from the top and need to go from the bottom up to the top. And districts part of that chain of sort of communications that kind of gets word up and down the line about what's new, what's going on, what are the problems, what are the answers to the problems, more importantly, really. That's what we're trying to do. So it's really a two-way sort of communication street. How it's structured is really divided into two distinct teams that we do work together. We've got the leadership team, which is really so myself, the district governor, the secretary, treasurer, and also all of the assistant governors, and the people who are going to follow me into post, which will be the district governor-elect, district governor nominee. So we look at this sort of strategic plan for the district, and we've got a 3-year plan that you may have actually seen already. We've got plans as to how we're going to help everyone to move forward in these ever-changing times. So we've actually got 9 separate assistant governors who look after clusters of clubs. So maybe 7, 8, 9 clubs in a cluster, sort of geographically grouped, and just to help those clubs to share ideas, just to share what they're doing, sharing projects, talk to each other, communicate, and also get advice from each other and also from the district governor, from the assistant governor. The secretary and treasurer are part of that group because they need to be part of every group just to keep the minutes of the meetings and keep the money flowing as well. So the assistant governors are absolutely crucial, and they're the main point of contact for all of the clubs. And this year especially, they're going to be even more important. We're going to use the assistant governor team to kind of speak to clubs and help people out, help people to get things done, and really to kind of help with problems, encourage people to share ideas that they've seen elsewhere, to pass on communications from myself, from Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, from Rotary International, and whatever, just to help people to kind of get back to normal after COVID. So we're dealing with this sort of strategy plus a lot of the hands-on stuff. The other team is actually the district executive team, and that's really the kind of operational team to kind of get things happening a little bit more. Again, it's the district governor, secretary and treasurer, but also the team leaders for the different service areas. So we've got team leaders for looking after foundation, so Patrick's here tonight, membership, which is Phil, public image, which is Irene, international service, Ravi, community service, we've got Swati filling in that for the moment, leadership and development is Roger, conference chairs, Irene, environmental was Tony, and youth services also Tony Beckett. So they're all the team leaders for the different areas of service and different areas that we're actually working in. And it's because they call team leaders, surprisingly enough, they've all got a team supporting them. So they all have their own team of people who help them to actually help the clubs really to move things forward. So each team is really just another group of volunteers. We've all got different skills. Some people are bringing skills that they've had from their career or a past life or other things they've done in Rotary. Other people are actually learning new skills as part of the team. So you may have skills actually to bring to the team. You may want to learn something new. So different people are using the teams for different things. And the team leaders, I think talking to them all, they've all got vacancies in their team for more helpers. Everyone's looking for more volunteers to help, because the more people we have in the team, the less work everyone has to do individually. So the more we can spread it out, the less workload there's for people individually to actually get on with. And it's a good first step to join a team in district, because it's a chance to see how it operates. When someone else actually leading the team with you, and you get a chance to talk to other people, to learn what's going on, to cut your teeth a little bit, and to learn what's happening outside of your own club. For me, the big benefit was really seeing things that weren't just happening in my club, because actually not all clubs are the same. If you don't visit a lot of clubs, you think that there's one version of Rotary, which is the one in your club. When you join district, you realise there are 67 different versions in our district of what you're doing in Rotary, and you get a chance to see all those and to share those ideas. So that's a good sort of way to actually join. There's also a whole other team of specialist officers, perhaps, who just advise us and keep us taking over, oil the wheels, keep us on track. So we've got people looking after website administration, which is Roger, a safeguarding officer, a district editor, and the secretary's got an assistant, the treasurer's got an assistant treasurer, we have a health and safety officer, and we've got a vacancy for a diversity and equality officer. So other people who are not part of a team, but are kind of specialist advisors, if you like. If we may well have that knowledge when they join us, or they may well be trained up to do that as part of the role. So there's a lot of people in this district team, all doing different things, and it's extremely varied. I think the workload is also varied. Some jobs don't require a lot of time and input, other ones require a lot more. But there's something really to fit everyone's interest, whether it's something that you've done in the past that you want to bring to district, where you think, I'm interested in a particular area, I want to learn more about it. It's a good way to actually expand your skills or knowledge in Rotary. We've also got another team. We've actually got the past district governor team. So at last count, there were 28 in the district. We've all done my job for a year in the past, and they've got a huge wealth of knowledge just to bring to us and advise us about things that they've done in the past, or the way things have actually happened. So actually, we've also got that team as part of our district. We also have, on the district executive, we have 2 ordinary Rotarian members who are not district team members. We just come to represent the clubs on the executive team. So, and that's Lee, who's with us tonight, and also Edwin Partridge for the coming year. So a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and lots of different sort of judges to join different teams. It should be quite easy to find something that everyone's interested in. Whatever your interest is, I'm sure we can find something that would help you to expand that, or that you could use to help us to expand the district. Either by sharing skills you've got, or by getting new skills that we can give you as part of that on the job, really. So, and the time involvement, as you'll learn across the rest of the evening, varies from not a lot to being quite heavy, depending on what role you've actually got. So next, about finding out a little bit more about that. Ask lots of questions tonight, please, because it's about you asking questions of us, what things are about, what you don't understand. This is the first time I've ever run this session, and it was the brainchild of last year's district governor nominee Kevin, who sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago. But this was his sort of idea to people to kind of debunk the myths of district. So we're going to try and do that tonight. We're going to debunk a whole lot of myths, hopefully tonight, for you all with some interest. So that's a very brief overview of what district looks like, but you'll learn a lot more from the guys we're going to talk to you tonight, what they're actually doing on the ground, really.
Thanks very much, Eric. That's very comprehensive, actually, and absolutely to the time that was set. So well done. I'm not going to take questions for Eric right now, but we will have an opportunity after we've heard from our next person, because I'm going to start off by talking to Tony Birchall, who's sat there next to Eric. There you are. He's waving nicely to us. Tony is an assistant governor, and he's a member of the Bidulph Club. So we're going to do this as a conversation between Tony and myself. So perhaps you'd like to set off, Tony, by telling us not about everything you've done with the Biddulph Club, but how long you've been a Rotarian and, the sorts of things you've been really interested in.
Yeah, I certainly will. I hope, Roger, you're not going to put me to time as you've just been timing Eric. But anyway, that's just to get us off on a jocular remark. Yes, right. Well, I've been a Rotarian since 2004. And I suppose I ought to mention how it was that I was invited to Rotary. I know I've heard Rotarians previously say we were all invited, and we can look at all being invited to join the district team or teams, but I was obviously invited, and that came by letter. So take your minds back to sort of January of 2004 or thereabouts. A letter came through the door, and I opened it up, and it said the Rotary Club of Biddulph, and I put it to one side on top of the shredder. Okay, I put it on top of the shredder, and I thought that is going in. Now, I had been a member of Round Table for a good number of years, and then pulled away from that due to work commitments. And I was about, seriously, it's the truth, I was about to shred this letter. I thought, I'm not interested, I've got too much going on, when I spotted a name on the bottom who was the current president, who I knew. So I thought, oops, I better get in touch. So I got in touch with Rotary, and that was in the days, one or two on the screen now will remember the days of 1050, Rotary 1050. And at that time, and we're going back, 17 years, aren't we now? Biddulph, I felt, was a more energetic club, as indeed many would have been 17 years ago. And I rolled along to Biddulph and thought to myself, I quite like this. I did lie. I was particularly impressed with the service above South and rolling your sleeves up and getting involved in the community. And I remember some super events in District 1050 that I went along to, early membership events at the Cottons Hotel in Knutsford, just outside of Knutsford. And I was captured, really. And I thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind joining this, because it was a little bit more, a lot more formal than it is now. And I was waiting to see if I'd be invited to join. It was all rather stuffy then. Ties, we got fined for not wearing ties and jackets. We had the 3-course meal. Those who wanted the pud had to order it separately, but it was all very formal, and this sort of order of service. But I didn't mind that at all. And so they invited me. And when they told me the cost, I thought, oops. So I thought at the time, well, this is rather expensive, this Rotary malarkey, what you've got to pay for. It wasn't the subs. I mean, they are nothing, to be honest, now. So I thought, well, I'll go with it now. I can't, I may mention this later, actually, thinking about it. I can't turn my back on these guys, all male club then, that I've got to know and enjoyed. So I joined Rotary. And it was a breath of fresh air, really. I really enjoyed it. I had to give up the gym. At the time, I used to be in the gym quite a bit, and I'm regretting that now. It's coming back to haunt me. I need to get back to the gym. The commitment then was much greater, of course. We were required to meet weekly, and it meant that you were literally committed to being a Rotarian. The current arrangement's far better, of course. So I was on first of all the Community Vocation Committee, and then I headed up International, and then I headed up membership. And I used to say, I'm sorry, Mr. District Governor, and I know it's our RI President's mantra this year, I used to say, it goes without saying that if one Rotarian brought another Rotarian to this club who became a member, we'd double our membership in the next 12 months. And I used to say that, and it got us somewhere, but not quite where we wanted to be. But I then moved on to being club president, then immediate past president, of course. I've been club secretary, and moved on to being an AG. So,
sounds like you'd actually done everything in the club, really, Tony, by then.
Yeah.
That was the next question, really. What prompted you to volunteer to take on a district role?
Well, again, I have to refer to the DG. I'm not name dropping. Right. So, again, we were at the district conference. I think it was in Southport, but I may be mistaken. And I wasn't very impressed with what was happening at the meal. And I'd had a few glasses of red. I bought one along tonight, but I have only sipped it. I bought a glass of red along just to show you what a glass of red is for those who've never had one before. And at the end of the meal, as we traipsed, not being the right word, traipsed off to the auditorium, I was thinking, well, I wasn't desperately impressed with that. And in drink, but not drunk, I accosted the assistant governor, our assistant governor, and his delightful wife, Irene. And I said to Eric, I'm not very happy about this, blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, if you're not happy, do something about it. Get involved at district level. So I said, right, I will do. And of course, the next morning I thought, did I actually say to Eric I'll get involved in district level? I don't know anything about district, but I wasn't going to back down from that. I wasn't going to have Eric Russell, the AG, telling me a few weeks later, I thought you were going to get involved.
So it's absolutely true that you didn't know what was involved when you first volunteered.
No idea, no idea at all. But I was. It's not right to say I was pressurised into it. I opened my mouth, and I was told to do something about it. So I thought I'd better do that. And of course, I don't regret that decision at all. So if that answers that, really, Roger, it was Eric saying, well, don't moan, don't groan, get involved and do something about it. And I think that's the position we can all be in as Rotarians. If you're not happy.
So how did you then find out about the job and what was involved in it?
As AG,
what was the process?
Do you mean getting involved as an assistant governor?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, then the club had. I'd spoken to members at the district level who said, if you're going to make an application to be assistant governor, and I looked at the formal process, that needed to be supported by the club president and the secretary. So name was put forward, and let's just say duly elected. And then I think really where it went from there is I didn't really know what was going to be involved, but I was sort of emboldened by the fact that Patrick Tyrrell was going to be district governor. I think Patrick's on the screen somewhere, and I'd come across Patrick in District 1050. And bear in mind, when 1050 closed up, we'll say, and moved with 1280, were we to become 1285, there was a smaller number, I think, of 1050 Rotarians who were coming into a bigger district or a junior district of people they didn't know. So I thought, well, I know Patrick, and obviously I know Eric, and I'm going to go for this. And I've got to know Stuart Saul and Janice Saul. And I think the message about what the role of the AG was brought home at the Warwick event. So for those who wouldn't know, there was this face-to-face, I presume it may resume, face-to-face training down at Warwick at the university there, a Saturday and Sunday, an overnight meal, which gave you the opportunity of being told what Rotary was, what an AG was expected to do. And it got me an opportunity to meet the district members of 1285, most of whom were not known to me.
And that's an event that's actually evolved and changed over the years, isn't it? It's not the same event that it was when you first went to it, probably.
No, it's not the same, but it's a great event, and in particular the opportunity to meet other incoming AGs or second year or third year AGs, from other areas of the country. I mean, the reality is in Rotary, there'll be nobody. I'll be very surprised if there's any Rotarian who can tell you which district represents which area of the country. So you're speaking to people, aren't you? Well, where are you from? What district is that? What area is it? I mean, you just can't remember the areas. They've been moved around. So it was
and the numbers don't matter that much, do they? Whatever the number is called.
No. But I came away with that. I came away from that training thinking this is great. And then the next thing really was to get to know the presidents, the club presidents, and the club assemblies were following thereafter. Because the way the Rotary year works is, I think, is a little unfortunate in that you get in a position of coming in as a new AG in your first year, and more or less the first thing you're expected to do is do the club assemblies, isn't it? For those clubs that you've not really yet got to know.
But it's a good learning curve. It's a good learning experience for finding out what clubs are doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And as Eric's mentioned earlier, I was amazed because we all do think, this is our Rotary club, this is my Rotary club, this is what Rotary does, and you find just how different, how diverse it is with other clubs. I think the other thing I would say is, and from a personal point of view, and I'm sure we'd all be in this situation, if you're going to take on a role, you need to spend some time thinking about it and looking at it. So there's quite a bit of mugging up on the Rotary or the aspects of Rotary. It's about time as an AG then I started to understand what foundation's all about. What's all that about? I know this, I know that, I know the other. So filling in the gaps. And I think overall, you can't say that as an AG. Well, I don't personally, as an AG, I don't say that I have any specific or any special knowledge in any special area, unlike the guys that have been doing foundation, know it inside out and upside down. But I know broadly what it's about, where to find the information, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being an AG. It's just a little bit unfortunate last year, flattened us all. So, but we'll see if this year can bring us all back to where we were before.
Well, I think there's a good prospect to that, really, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, you've touched on the next area I was going to cover, actually, which is, what was in it for you, and what have you gained by doing all of this?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly personal development involved. This is a very good question, because I suppose it depends on the individual. I suppose it also depends on the interaction with your clubs. I had no idea at the outset whether there was going to be anything in it for me. I wasn't really bothered. Bear in mind, go back to this challenge from Eric, do something about it. So I wasn't really concerned about what was in it for me. And to that extent, repeating myself, don't want to lose face with Eric. But I think there's two, I would say there's two, it's twofold really now after 2 years. From the Rotary point of view, as an AG, I've learned so much more about Rotary, so much more about the organisation. I've discovered, as we say, that your club doesn't know everything, doesn't do everything right, does things differently. And you realise that there's a big Rotary world. It's a big Rotary world, and there's a lot going on. Yeah, and there's a space for everybody, and there's something for everybody. So that opens your eyes. That takes you away from this sort of parochial approach to, this is what we do, this is when we meet on a Monday, and this is what we've always done and will never change. So that's from a Rotary point of view, massive learning curve. Personal point of view, I think it's enhanced me because I've got to know district members at district level who are, in my experience, all the sorts who say, let's get things done. Okay, it might not always come off, but that's a breath of fresh air from the Rotarian in the club who says, well, I'll tell you why we can't do it, why we never have, and why we shouldn't.
Tried that before, it didn't work then, it won't work now.
Yeah, we can't do that. We don't do that. We just don't do that. And why should we bother, as I think you've said, Roger, the district is just a job for the boys. We don't have anything to do with district. So from a personal point of view, I learned that district wasn't something to be afraid of. It's Rotarians, men and women Rotarians, with all wanting to get involved, roll the sleeves up, service above self, have a good time, have fun, but also to help, as it might, we don't want to be patronising, encourage others to do the same.
Okay, I think that's quite a good place to just take a pause for a few minutes, Tony. Yeah. You're actually, the last question from me on this section is, you're actually just in your third year as an AG now, aren't you?
That's right, yeah.
So what's next for you in Rotary?
Well, that's another good question. I mean, nobody knows what the future brings, but heading up the next thing really is heading up the environment team or environmental team. I don't quite like the word at the minute. I don't know whether it's environment or environmental team. We'll have to think about that. But that's what I'm really looking forward to. What I want to do is get a good team together. I'll perhaps mention that to you later.
We'll come back to that. I'll give you half an hour now to think about whether it's environment or environmental, and we'll come back to talk about that later. But for now, thank you very much for that, Tony. Yeah. That was very useful, and thank you for being honest and open. The next bit of this is, Eric mentioned before that, very often a starting point for this is joining a district team as a member of the team, but not necessarily as the leader for it. So what I'm going to do is ask somebody who joined the team that I'm now privileged to lead, which I only took over in July of this year from Stuart Saul, who led that team before. And he and I recruited together Phil Round from the Newton Le Willows Club. So I'm going to ask Phil to tell us how it came about that he ended up as a member of our leadership development team. Phil.
Good evening, everybody. Well, I think it came about, Roger, by the fact that you bought me a lunch one Tuesday in a pub. I can't remember the name of it. I mean, my story, I guess, is a little bit similar to Tony's. I joined Rotary in June 2012. I've been approached before that, but I didn't retire from my full-time job till August 2011. And the issue was the club met on the lunchtime, and there was no way I could get from Liverpool to Newton Le Willows to attend a lunchtime meeting. So I kept it on a burner, but actually after I retired, I filled in a form that I got from the beer festival and joined the club. And in the early years, I worked my way up. I served time on the Youth Services Committee, and then I was asked to take on the Community Services Committee as chair, because for some reason that had sort of declined and wasn't meeting. So I got involved in that, and I found very much that there was a big opportunity there to connect with the community groups. And we built up quite a good community. We've got a very active community and a giving community in Newton. So there was an opportunity to work on that particular team. And I guess the big project that we did there was roll out defibrillators to community groups. And we rolled out 12 defibrillators over the course of 3 years. So all the key areas in Newton have now got defibrillators. I was then sort of tapped on the shoulder and asked if I was interested in becoming president. So I was president-elect in 2017 and 18, and was president in 2018 and 19. And that, I guess, was where I had the first real taste of district. I'd attended a few of the conferences. We'd been as district as fellowship groups, but never really, I've got enough going on at the club. Well, when I was president, I actually joined the Wigan Cluster Group, which is a very active cluster. At that time, it was run by Derek, and it was supported by Kevin, who used to come to all the meetings. So we used to meet literally every month. And at the end of the presidential year, I continued as the Newton rep on that particular group. But the issue that I found was that everything is, it was a really good, intense year, really enjoyed it. But at the end of the year, you just seemed to fall off a cliff. There didn't seem to be a role for past presidents as such. And a lot of the members used to say, well, hang on, you've done the president's year now, back to the back benches, wait until I ask you to do it again, if they do ask you to do it again. So I had a chat with Derek Newman and sort of explained to him what my frustrations were, because to me, from what I'd learned, Rotary was not about beer festivals and the Christmas floats. Although these are good ways of actually raising money. So Derek, in fact, put me in touch with Stuart and Roger, and we had that fateful meeting in the pub, which I think was January or February 2020, just before lockdown started. And I think Stuart sort of gave me a proposition and sort of said, after I explained what my background was, I had as my major job being the education and training manager at Halewood plant in Liverpool, and had worked the way through from the time that the plant had changed from a mass production Ford plant to a total quality Jaguar Land Rover plant. So I got very much involved in things like teams, in things like culture change, and doing a lot of workshops and developing programs. So Stuart asked the question, have you ever written anything on meeting skills? I said, yeah, I've got some stuff on that. And it was sort of signed up there to them. And I've been on that team now since, well, I think it was January, February 2020, right the way through the lockdown. Developed some more material on the PEPS program, honed my skills, because one thing I'd never done was deliver on Zoom or anything like that. So when it was a question of sharing the screen, that to me was a completely new, a new sort of skill and competency that I had to pick up, because I was more interested in doing PowerPoint presentations to groups. And I think since then we've developed some more materials, and I've actually really enjoyed being part of the team, because it's helped me eyes, it's allowed me to meet more members, and just to show that Rotary ain't just about a small club or one of 67 clubs, which I guess make up our district. And there's a lot of interesting people that you meet. And my view is, what has really impressed me when I got more looking at the learning and development materials that's on all the Rotary websites, that this is state-of-the-art stuff. This is the sort of stuff that we were being taught at Ford, at Jaguar, Land Rover. And there's such a lot of good stuff that can be used, and there's such a lot of good that can be done. So I'm energized again now. I'll still do the Christmas float and the beer festival when I'm asked to, and get involved in community sort of projects. But I'd like to feel now that I can be of some benefit to actually sort of developing the training materials, helping out with the culture change that we might need to do. And in fact, hopefully, I'm going to work with Tony on the environmental group in setting up that team. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's my, and just remember, if ever you're asked to go out for a meal, then there's a good chance that if you accept, you'll get a job.
It's something I've always said, Phil. You can go a long way in Rotary if you're not careful.
Anyway, that's my story.
Thank you very much, Phil. Phil is a very good example of somebody who used his vocational skills to, without realising he was going to be doing that, when he came to join a team where his vocational skills were exactly what we were looking for in the team that he came to join. And it's surprising how often that happens, but also it's not absolutely essential, because we can also give people those sort of skills and use people like Phil to train up other people to do presentations and to organise teams and all of the things that he's been doing that he brought with him. And we can spread that across Rotary. And that's one of the real strengths of having this. I'm going to take a little pause there and ask anybody who wants to unmute themselves. And I'd be interested in any comments or questions for either Tony or for Eric or for Phil. If you use the raised hand, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, that would be good. And Lee will be looking out for that. Adrian, yes?
I'd just like to say briefly, a lot of the things I'm involved in, we couldn't do without district. We couldn't do youth exchange at just a club level. We need a district. We couldn't do the youth camps just at district, just at club level, and we couldn't do a lot of the contests. So we need district. We need it.
Thank you for that, Adrian. I mean, that's absolutely right, in that there are many things that are better organised on a district level. Some of them you actually can't organise just on a club level, but there's an economy of scale of things. If you're doing competitions, for instance, where we actually set a standard and organise them at district levels rather than every club reinventing the wheel around all of those things. Rosemary, you've got a hand raised. If you'd like to unmute,
yes, thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm from the Wigan Club, past president. It's just a general comment. You did say that the time commitment could be either very little or, going up to a lot. It seems to me that actually it's very likely to be quite a lot. I'd just like anybody to sort of give their thoughts on that.
Let's go around the room and ask people who've talked. Tony, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, so we maybe stop and think now. I mean, it's what you put into it, isn't it, really? And what role you would want within a district team. The team leader is the umbrella above your heads, you might say. So I would say there's no requirement to put in a certain amount of time. I'm sure that's the case. Apologies can be given and absences are acceptable. It's where you feel you fit in, what you feel you want to be involved in, and how much time you can commit. But the bottom line is, I think all Rotarians can only give the time that they have available. And I think we've always said that family and work commitments come before Rotary. So it wouldn't be a case of Rotary pushing other things out of the door, so everything to the Rotary to the exclusion of all else is not the case. So I think I would simply say you can commit the time that you have available, as you just mentioned. If that's only a short amount of time, well, it's better than no time at all, isn't it? And if you get something out of it and Rotary gets something out of it, I think both and all are winners. So
I think that's a very good point, Tony. Phil, what's your take on that?
Yes, I think now that we use Zoom as a medium, it cuts down a lot of the amount of time, because initially when we started, which was before COVID, the meetings were being held at Stewart's Training Centre in Haywood, which I guess for me, it's not a difficult journey, but it adds 35 minutes going and coming back to the time that you would actually spend. Whereas just going onto Zoom, you can actually log straight on. The question of how much time you put in, I'm a firm believer, if I enjoy doing something, then the time is not such a big issue. And I enjoy doing this, so I can invest in the time.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, time becomes an issue if it becomes a chore and you don't really want to do it.
Yeah. Robert, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted just to contribute to joining a committee for the first time. My experience was I'd been club president in 2001, 2002, and that had, up to then, that had been my best year in Rotary, and I decided I wanted to do something else after being president. Like somebody else mentioned, there was a gap, or you felt in a void after being club president. So I decided to go to the District Foundation Committee, unannounced. And because all district committees, as far as I'm aware, you can just walk in on them and sit down, participate or not, but you're entitled to be present. So I did that and came away totally confused. So I thought, okay, they're meeting again in 6-8 weeks time. I went back a second time, sat down, didn't contribute, came away totally confused again. And I went back a third time. So this is like now 4 months into my immediate past presidency year. Went in and listened to them, and I stopped the meeting. And I said, you guys are talking in acronyms. Please stop, because I don't understand the acronyms. Now, the foundation is full of acronyms. In those days, it was GSE and other stuff like that, and RILA and whatever. And I hadn't come across very much exposure to that, even although I'd been a Rotarian for 6 years up until then. So that stopped the meeting dead. And they said, my God, we do talk in acronyms. But the point that I want to make for the others is, go to a committee meeting if that's what you're interested in without declaring your interest, but don't be put off if you don't get involved right away. Stick with it. And in my case, the committee then changed how they talked on that occasion and following occasions to include me, and they hadn't realized what they were doing. So you need to be a bit brave about expanding your interest beyond what you do today. And that was just, I wanted to say that to encourage people to get involved.
Thank you, Robert. No more hands raised, so I'm going to move on and introduce to you Paul Scullion. Paul, if you'd like to unmute.
Just unmute. Yes, Roger.
Hi. You're a member of the Glossop Club, and you actually started off with your district career as a committee member in public image, if I'm right, and then moved on. Is that the story?
No, it isn't actually.
Okay.
No. Shall I tell you what happened then?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Basically, anybody who knows Glossop, we're out on the edge of everywhere. We didn't want anything to do with district. And when the AG used to come to club assembly, we didn't want to see them. They were a pain in the neck, and we just waited for them to leave. Now, up came the job of district rep. This is going back a bit. Then came the job of district rep. Nobody wanted to do it, so they gave it me. I thought, oh, well, all right, I'll go along. I'm not going to kid you. It's not hard at first to go along to a district meeting. One, we're sat in cinema seats, so you don't really get to meet people. And I found that quite hard at first, even though I was accompanied by the past rep. But I started to get a picture of what district we're doing. And of course, just like Tony, I came across Eric and Irene. Now, the thing that started to impress me about district is the work they did on meal pack. Until that, I still no interest in district. So I was president at that time. I worked on Rosemary's cluster. Anybody who doesn't know Rosemary, she was brilliant. And again, whilst they were a bit fractious, the meetings, I did get a feel that things were happening in other districts, but I'm still not interested. In the middle of my presidency, we've just done the summer school, which was very good, most enjoyable. And we've just done a meal pack. I spent 4 months on this meal pack, and I rang every president of every club in 1285. Still not got an idea of district, but certainly I had got used to using districts and got them to help out, and it was a big success because they got involved. So I wasn't anti-district at that point. Still not interested in doing a job. And then, I don't know, probably January of my presidency, I got a call from Patrick. Now, Patrick, I didn't know at all. I'd seen him once at a president-elect's meeting, and he said, "You've been recommended to be an assistant governor." Well, I was really flattered, to be honest. That's the main reason. I couldn't say yes there and then. I had to ask my wife because I realised it was going to be a big commitment. And then within a week, I accepted it. And I'm not going to kid you. It's hard work at first. You have a lot of learning to do. You get paperwork upon paperwork of people telling you how to be a good district governor, assistant governor, and so on. And it's filtering that and getting it down. But where's she gone? But to answer Rosemary's question, I think AG is a very difficult job to do well. If you do it well, the districts you look after will appreciate you. They will make you welcome. You will like going there, and they will attend your cluster meetings. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to, but it won't help the district. It won't help the clubs much. It's very, very rewarding. Going to clubs, being appreciated, asking to find things out. What you do find when you get to district is you have tremendous resources you can refer to. And one way or another, somebody can answer your questions. So when you go back to your clubs who are asking these questions, you look very knowledgeable. By the end of it, you are a bit more knowledgeable. It is probably one of the most rewarding jobs in Rotary. And when I took the job on, somebody said, "This is the best job in Rotary," I thought, yeah, you're just selling it, aren't you? But it really is. It really is a special job. Now, I do have, Roger, another job, public image, but that came on later on.
Oh, right, okay.
And to be honest, nothing like as demanding. It can be. It would never be as demanding as an AG, but it is. It's a nice job. It's more like a standard committee, but for an AG, if you're considering it and you want to do it well, be prepared to work for it. You've got to keep on top of your clubs. You've got to have at least 8 clubs. You've got to know all the members, or well, a good deal about them. And if you do that, you'll really enjoy it more than you do presidency. I have to say that. So yeah, that's what I would say on that.
Okay. When you set off, As you say, you didn't know very much about what it was involved when you first joined. Was the induction and the training really good, or was it mediocre, or was it helpful? Or
Well, this is the problem, you see, because when I knew you were going to ask me about this, I thought I had no involvement in district. I just got asked out of the blue. But as I've explained, I'd done quite a couple of district tasks, so I was a bit into it. Oh, the induction. I can't remember, Roger. I just remember I printed every single document I was ever given off. Many of them repeated themselves, and I managed to get out of that what the key parts of the job were. And of course, I would speak to Rosemary. You always speak to the past AG, who will act as a mentor, to be honest. And very quickly, you get into what's involved.
Actually, that's quite an important point, isn't it? Because the mentorship arrangement is a very good way of developing somebody into any of these posts that we're talking about in the district, whether it be as a committee member, as a team leader, or as an assistant governor. Yeah. It's finding somebody that you can relate to and you can develop a relationship with, who can point you in the direction either of what you need to know or of where you can get the information.
Yeah. And of course, fair? if you've been a president, you will have been on a cluster and you'll have been getting notes from your AG, like I used to get them from Rosemary. So I knew what she was taking down, what was important. All the people at the cluster I then began to know. And funnily enough, a lot of them are still in my clubs now. So you've got an inroad to meeting people and getting into it. Yeah, I would say, mentoring is quite important.
Yeah. So what do you get out of this job for you personally?
I get a great sense of achievement. If you look at all these measures of what motivates people, there is some power to it. I would never say power is an issue on it. It's about achieving and helping clubs. When you really help a club out, and I've done a couple of them, it's a great feeling. It really is. And you feel you've made a difference, especially where a club's struggling and you help them do something which turns them around, makes things better, or whatever. And that's what I get out of it, really. I think that's it. It's a sense of achievement.
And that's actually quite important as a sort of self-motivator, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there a benefit? Is there anything that your club benefits from in terms of you being a district officer?
Well, of course they do. They've got a nice pre-AG sat there who doesn't say anything, don't criticise, but I know most of it. And club assemblies, I've spent a lot of time on club assemblies, and Patrick did a brilliant questionnaire on it, which standardised the format and procedure we should follow. And that helps the clubs and it helps you. And it made it very easy for Glossop. Glossop will ask me, obviously, as an AG, but they've got their own AG, but it's dead easy just to ask me. It's a great experience, and you do learn, and you do, but they do look upon you as knowing everything, of course, which you don't. But I don't mind them looking that way. It's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean that's something I'm very familiar with, because of course Rosemary Boardman and I are in the same club, or were in the same club, and that was something we got, that we were always expected to know everything that was going on. And in Rosemary's case, that was true, really, because she was very widely involved in all sorts of things. Me also, but mine was more of a technical knowledge around things that were going on in the district, rather than the personal and club things that were going on in the district. Yeah. What's next for you, Paul? Beyond, because you're also in your third year as an AG, aren't you?
Well, unfortunately, for me, it's been a tough, rewarding 3 years, and I will enjoy it, and I'll enjoy supporting Eric, and that's one of the major reasons. Well, another reason why I did it. I'm looking forward to a rest. Okay. I'll probably continue on to serve on something like public image if they still want me on it. But I've no grand ideas. I've no wish to particularly to get on. But then in my whole career, I never have. People have always pulled me in, either seconded me in, or I didn't apply for a lot of jobs. I just kept being pulled in to do jobs, and I got used to it.
That sounds very much like my story, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to be asked, because you feel valued. I don't see any point in me applying to do something or pushing to do something, because they might not want you to do it. So if people like what Rosemary's saying now, I would think she'd have to feel valued to take on a job. And if she did, it would pay back. But you've got to be careful how much you take on. I do agree with her.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's another part to that as well, which is that you only give of your best to a job if you've got the time to do it and the interest to do it, don't you? Because it's possible to take on too much and not being able to do justice to the different elements of all of the things that you're doing.
I think I would say you take on far too much, and then you hide the fact that you're struggling.
Well, yes.
Until your wife says you need to slow down a bit. But
yeah,
I say it's very rewarding.
There's probably a lot of us have heard that tale. Yes. Okay, Paul, thank you very much indeed for that. Right, I'm going to just tell you very briefly, by way of introducing some of the stuff about what other opportunities there are within the district, my story of the things I've done. And I've been doing things in district, really at the encouragement of some members of my club who were at that time district governors or conference organisers or thing, and wrote me into doing things in the first place for conference. And for about 10 years I did the audiovisual aids and all of the things that James Anderson now does very successfully for conference and meetings, and I did all of those for the District 1280 conferences for 10 years. And that really got me not involved in, that was just, something that I was doing as a technical job, but it also got me involved in meeting people who were doing other jobs in the district, and that was quite important for things to then develop. Like Paul, I joined the then public image team, called Communications then, before it was ever called Public Image, and I did that really because I had some interest and some expertise in developing club websites, and took on some of the website stuff for those. And the story of how I then became a team leader, initially for Public Image, for Communications, was actually one where a situation that many people have been in, where somebody who's doing a job, for whatever reason, gives up on it during the course of a Rotary year. And one day I was sat at a club's charter night, dressed in my dinner jacket and, with friends and my wife around me, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder from behind, and he put a Rotary jewel round my neck, and he said, "Congratulations, you're now the chairman of the communication committee." Now, that was somebody who is still a member of our district. He would remember that, I'm sure, but I won't tell you his name and embarrass him. But that is probably not the right way to be introduced to that. But nevertheless, I took on that job and did it for a period of time. And that actually got me into thinking, yeah, there are quite a lot of jobs I could do in Rotary. Do I want to do all of them? And the answer was there are some I didn't want to do with a passion. There are some I actually did want to do with a passion. And I did those. And those come back to some of the vocational things, because one of the things that I did for quite a long time, many of you will remember, is I was district treasurer for 7 years, in fact. Only 7 years because it went over the change of the redistricting and the merging of the two districts was done in my time as district treasurer. And that was a fascinating job, which was one that I very much enjoyed, and I found was something that club treasurers very much welcomed, the opportunity to find out what treasurership in Rotary was all about. The other thing for me was that I had always been involved in training, and that's not unusual, because most hospital doctors, which is, as most of you will know, was my background, if you do that job for long enough, you end up training the next generation of junior doctors. And so you become a postgraduate trainer, whether you have any aptitude for it or whether you have any skill for it. And most of the time that works very well, because most of it is by an apprenticeship sort of arrangement, but some also is of an academic sort, and I found I was quite good at that sort of thing. So that was where I first got into training and development and change management, which is what I ended up doing as a job, and continued to do in Rotary. So that's my story of how I progressed from doing a single job around the audiovisual technician stuff for a district, to a committee job, to a team leader job, to a district officer job, and now back to being a team leader for this leadership and development and training team. The answer to the questions I've been asking Paul from my own point of view is that has been extremely enjoyable for me. I think it's been a benefit to my club, and I think my club think it's been a benefit as well. And I don't know what my next move is going to be after I've done this one, except to say that I'm probably coming up to the age where this is going to be, a job which I shall enjoy doing for a period of time, and then, like Paul, I should be looking for a rest and to do something entirely different. So I'm now going to go back to Tony Birchall, because one of the real opportunities this year, and it's something that's very new, is the opportunity to set up a new service team. And I say that because this year, for the first time, we have an extra area of focus added to Rotary's work, and that is a focus on the environment and environmental issues. I've used both terms, Tony, so you can choose which one you want to use. So district now has to have an environment officer, and he needs to develop a team to support him in that. And I've asked Tony if he would tell us and give us his thoughts on how he's going to do that, and perhaps think about what skills he wants to recruit to his team and how he might go about doing that. So Tony, back to you.
Thanks, Roger. I think we'll probably go with the environment team, but that's up for grabs. Sorry, okay. Mr. DG. Well, yes, what an exciting area of focus this is. Let me just ramble. Just what comes to mind. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been thinking about the environment in the way that we do. I'm no preacher about global warming or how we should protect the environment, but I think we've all come to a point, surely I think we have, where we know that the environment is very important, and we're all learning all the time, how we all intermesh. I'm desperately stressed at the moment when I go into the back garden and I see all these flowers. I wasn't going to say this, but it's me rambling. I see all these flowers and I see no pollinators. Then I have a good day and then they're not there, and I get stressed about it. So I read about the insects and where have all the dead insects gone on my windscreen when I'm driving around, and then I think about the cars. But I'm no preacher, but what an exciting opportunity this is for Rotary, and this will do Rotary so much good across the world. People want to get involved in the environment. All these projects that we do, which are realistically environmental projects, what the youngsters want to get involved in. I'm not necessarily going to come to Rotary, but I'll come to your litter pick. I'll bring the kids along. Let's get involved. We'll roll the sleeves up. Let's clean this. Let's do that. I think the DG probably had his litter pick as his induction as DG, shall we say. So I think if we call the environment team, and the way I see it going forward, I want to work very closely with Phil Round and a couple of other names I have in mind. But I want us to say to ourselves now, where are we in Rotary in this year? Well, we've just started. Obviously, 1st of July, we're not at the end of the month. Lockdown easing on the 19th of July. We've had about 9 days where we might have started to breathe again. And stating the obvious, as a new team, we can develop it how we want it to be, and I want it to be inclusive. So I'm hoping through district that after tonight's event, we can get in touch with the clubs, and we can start to say, this is the new team we're setting up, and looking for expressions of interest. Who wants to join this team? What they want to do? How much time do they want to put in? Rosemary was on about that before. I can't give much time, but I'm really interested in the pollinators, or I'm really interested in that. What projects can we do to help the bees? I want to do this. I want to plant trees. So I'm not talking about individual projects as such, but I'm talking about getting a team that wants to make it happen, and looking at how we do make that happen and being excited to make it happen. That's the way I see it going forward. So we're not going to have a situation, I believe, where those in clubs will say, oh yes, we've got a new team, it's the environment team, and here we're getting all the gubbins about what they want us to do, what we've got to do. The reality is, it's a golden opportunity for everybody to get involved and say how they want it to function. The team, as I see it, will overlap greatly with all of the other teams that we've got. This is going to overlap with community. It's going to overlap with vocation. Public image is going to be so important to it. Publicity, and membership drives on the back of it. So the team is important, but it's going to dovetail, I think, with absolutely every other area of focus we've got. So it's a great start. And I want, realistically, after today, to look for expressions of interest. So if we get a good team together, we can break down the way the team functions. There's got to be some measurability, if there's such a word. You've got to measure what we're doing in some way, but we can measure it so easy. If you are at district level and you are doing this at district level, tick, that's what districts are doing. If your club has a project that's an environmental project, that's what your club is doing. If your club is not interested in the environment, you can't shake them up to do anything, well, you can do it yourself. There's a Rotarian. There's a fellow in Biddulph. I think he's got the MB, and I'm sad to say I can never remember his name. He walks around Biddulph every single day with a litter picker in his hand, and he picks up the litter. You can't do a litter pick in Biddulph. There's no litter left, but that's what this fella does. So each individual Rotarian can do their own individual project, can't they? I was thinking of things the other night about, are you doing an environmental project if you decide, well, I won't just jump in the car and pop to the shop and buy a newspaper and a bottle of milk or a carton of milk. I'll walk. I'll save a journey. Shall I record the fact of just save a journey? Shall I look at my carbon footprint? So there's all these things going around in our heads, and I'm going to work with Phil, and we will set out, and with others in the team we put together, a vision, the tasks at hand, what we're looking for, and how we get clubs and individual Rotarians involved. We need in each club, it seems to me, shall I call it a person of focus? I don't know. A contact point. Someone in that club who I can get in touch with, the district team can get in touch with and say, what are you up to? What do you fancy doing? We can help you with this. We can help you with that. Have you thought of doing this? Will you do that? Look at the opportunity to get involved with the youth and the schools and the youth projects team. As I say, they all dovetail. They're all there. It's absolutely a golden opportunity for Rotary, and it will work. And it's important to us because most of us have now reached the grandparental age. I don't know. We may not have done. Nephews and nieces and kids, and it's environment, and rightly so. So the way forward, I think, is to start to get a nice team together. Let's not run before we can walk. Let's not get loads of bump from districts saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you not doing it? Let's just ease our way into it over the next few months, start to look at what we're doing. And then, you can go on forever about the projects that you can put together from the environment. I actually thought the other day, okay, somebody might come up and say to me, how can you be a Rotarian if you're going to fly to Spain for your holidays? I never go to Spain for my holidays, by the way. Well, you can look at the airlines if you want to, can't you, that decide to check their carbon footprint and put something back into the environment. Maybe that's what you do. I don't know. That's a bit political just at the minute, but we can work together as to how we see it, and we can go forward. So that's the plea. Expressions of interest, get the team going and take it forward. I know there'll be great support from district. I know there'll be fabulous support with the other teams, and working with that district executive team, we will make this happen. And let's say, because Roger, you were asking me where do I see myself being in next year. Well, I want to make a good fist with others. Phil will help me out. He's the man who can put together the teams, the vision, the statement and where we're going. But let's make a good fist of this, and let's have a situation where this she's had was think differently, and the meal packs and so on, where people turn around and say, "Oh, 1285 is up to one or two good tricks here, aren't they? Just look what they've been doing, where they're at. Look at what the clubs are doing. How many clubs are doing this? How many?" And it will re-energize. Phil said he was energized, didn't you, Phil? You said you're energized. So maybe we should be using something like apathy versus energy or something like that. I don't know. We're re-energized, we're refocused. So it's a bit of an impassioned plea. It's not going to be stuffing it down your throat. It's not going to be something you've got to do, but we want a point of focus in each club. We want clubs embracing these ideas. We want new ideas, simple stuff. Simple stuff will protect the environment and we'll all feel so much better for it. Getting out, rolling the sleeves up in the beautiful sunshine that we've just had, and even in the thunderstorm within reason, which Eric has just had at the start of the meeting. So hopefully, Roger, that'll give you a feel for where we're going. I'm really dependent upon the district now to take it forward, and the same way we'll get it, maybe on the DMS, we'll get in touch with the clubs in that way. But don't do what I did when I had my first invitation to Rotary and put the invitation to join the district environment team, maybe what we call that. Don't put it on the shredder. Don't stick it in the junk box. Respond. I'm interested. My club are not interested, but I am. Who are you? Right. Let's get our sleeves rolled up. I think I can persuade my club to get involved in this. We're going to plant some flowers. Brilliant. We'll get those crocus bulbs in. Fantastic. We'll put some trees in. Wow, what we're going to do? How are we going to measure it? That's what we'll be doing. That's the way I see it anyway, Roger, if that assists.
Tony, DG. That is fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for that. That actually was very inspirational in terms of what you said, and I'm sure is an approach that clubs will get behind.
I think they will.
If we can all do our part in selling that to them.
Yeah.
And you're right in that you said it's about working together with other teams, because all of the teams have to work together to be able to do any of these things successfully. Which brings me on really to the final things that I want to say before we go on to some general discussion and questions. And that is that when I advertised this meeting and said it was going to take place, I wrote to all of the service team leads and said, are you interested in looking for people to join your teams? And without fail, they've all of them come back and have said, of course we are. Yes, we do want to encourage new members to join our teams. So one of the things I'll be doing at the end when I put the recording of this up on the district site is I'll put up a list of the contact details for all of the team leaders. And you've heard Eric talked about them a little bit before, but all of them will be really interested to hear from anybody in the district who would be prepared to find out more about the work that they're doing and what their vision and aspirations are for the future. Because this is about visions and aspirations, and Tony, as you've just heard, has fantastic vision and aspirations for the new environment team, and that's something very much we can all get behind. So I think that's all I'm going to say for the time being, and what I'd now like to do is open the floor for anybody to ask questions of any of the team who are here. And there are people who are here. Adrian spoke before. Adrian is actually part of the youth team and deals very much with youth exchange and assists with other youth activities around the place. So there are all sorts of people here who, you might want to actually talk to and ask questions about what they're doing and what's going to be happening in the future. Finally, and I have to say this because Janice is sitting on my screen in the top left-hand corner, and she will say to me, what she said to me before on this, is don't forget to mention the other officers who don't have the sexy jobs like environment and youth, or all of those sorts of things, but nevertheless are very important. And that's people like secretaries assistant secretaries, treasurers, and assistant treasurers, because they're all part of this team. Eric mentioned them at the beginning, but we mustn't forget we're always looking at succession planning for people to follow in those sorts of jobs as well. So, anybody, any comments or questions that they would like to put to anybody on this meeting tonight? Sam Addison.
Yeah, just thinking about what Tony was just saying. At our last meeting, I said to the club I wanted to do at least one project in every area of focus. It just occurred to me listening to Tony that perhaps I should actually be asking for members of the clubs to be basically the club rep for a particular area of focus. So then that if Tony wants to get in touch with someone in my club to do the environment, there is someone who specifically is their environmental rep. And if people have got a passion for a particular area, that we might be able to encourage more projects if they actually have a title of that nature.
I think that's a very important contribution, Sam, actually. For those of you who don't know, by the way, Sam is the president this year of the Warrington Club, and he's therefore the district governor's president this year. But it's really important that we actually look for people with passions and with aspirations and with vision who want to take on things like this, because it's much better to get a volunteer to do this than to have somebody whose arm you have to twist at the back to say, take that on for me. So yeah, great idea, Sam, for that. And a good idea to include the other areas of focus as well.
Roger.
Tony, yeah.
And I talk across you. I mean, I suppose I shouldn't put my hand up like I should do it properly. But that's ideal, Sam. I mean, if every club president said we're going to appoint somebody in the club who'll be the environment officer, who will tell us what's going on environment-wise and encourage us to get involved, that's exactly what we want. It'll be a perfect line of communication. Your rep, your environment rep, your environment officer, call him what you will, your environment team member, will be telling yourself, Sam, and the DG what they're going to be doing in the environment. They'll find out more that way than they will on the team meetings at district. That's the way forward, 100%. I'll make a note. I'll be in touch. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Tony. Interesting, actually. Robert Strachan's just put something on the chat to say, how many of the people who are here tonight do not already have a role in District 1285? Well, you won't be surprised, Robert, looking around the faces, that there are many people who've got roles in 1285, but there are also many who haven't got roles in the district at the moment. So, we're talking to everybody tonight because there are some people who either have roles currently or have had roles in the past, who might want to be re-energised, as Tony put it, and look for a different challenge and a different something to join in. So I don't actually have a figure for how many do not already have a role, but you can see yourself that there are actually the most of 27 people actually signed in tonight, and you will know yourself which of them have roles. Any other questions that anybody wants to raise?
Adrian's got his hand up.
Yes.
Adrian?
The interactors at Sandbach High School have completed all 7 areas of focus, even though we haven't met face to face for over 18 months, right? We have email meetings. So if anybody wants me to send the 7 areas of focus which they've completed, I'm more than willing to do so. The young people have given me permission, and I always ask young people for permission before I do almost anything. As you know, they completed them online.
That's a fantastic job they've done there, Adrian, and no doubt under your guidance.
Well, yes, they do listen to me sometimes.
I tell you what would be a good idea, and it's something I will suggest to one of the things we're interested in developing is programs other than purely business programs to talk about at district council meetings. And it strikes me that would be an extremely good project for you or even some of the interactors to talk about at a district council meeting.
Yes, right. I've made a note of that. I will ask them.
So I will raise that at the next executive meeting, who are the ones who actually set the agenda for the council meetings.
Can I just chip in, Roger, with a couple of other roles that are not necessarily part of a team, but we do have requirement for some more volunteers for. So I know that
please do.
I know our current district editor is about to take on a bigger job. I think as Mayor of Trafford later on during the year, so he is going to have a little bit less time. He's looking for some support for the district editor to do the online as magazine stuff for us. There's a vacancy there if anyone's got any interest in that sort of area. We don't currently have a health and safety officer in the district. I know it's not the most exciting job in the world, but someone needs to advise us on that. Anyone who's got background in health and safety, looking for a little bit of guidance there. And we also haven't got a diversity and equality officer, which is one of the new hot topics in Rotary. So we could, anyone who's got a background or interest in that sort of area, stick your hand up or drop us a note or whatever. So there are things outside of the other teams that we've already mentioned that we've got some gaps that we're looking for some expertise in, people who could come and help us out with other things. So it isn't just the team leaders, there are other general specialist sort of roles with the team that we've got gaps in at the moment. So
I think that's really important that you just said, Eric. And of course, we're not necessarily looking for one person in all of these things. There's no reason why we can't have a few people.
Exactly.
Who can join together. One of the things a lot of districts do when you think about health and safety and diversity and some of the other things like safeguarding and data protection is they actually have a compliance team who actually work together around covering those things across the district and advising both club and other district officers what they need to be doing on that. So that's something that I would certainly like to see us developing for the future. So yes, you're quite right. We need to be finding volunteers for people who would be interested in learning about and taking on some of those roles. And if they've already got some of the skills, even better.
And back to Rosemary's point, the more people that are doing it, the less everyone has to do individually. So the more people that are it doesn't fall on one person.
Absolutely right.
So the more volunteers we can get, the wider we can share the load, really. So that's part of what we're trying to do tonight.
Oh, Rosemary, yes. Please
It's
do.
just a comment. I have to say, I have really enjoyed listening to everybody this evening. It's been informative and entertaining. So thank you. I'm glad I came.
We're very glad you came, Rosemary, as well. So, we always want to see new people. This is something new, as Eric said right at the beginning, that we haven't done before. It is something we'll want to develop and we will do more of. But yes, thank you for your comment. That's much appreciated. And, we will keep working on this and see how it develops.
They're just going back to something that Robert's point from earlier. You're all welcome to come along to any of the team meetings to see what it's about. Come to the district council meeting. If you want to find out more about district and you haven't learned it tonight, come along to me. You don't need to volunteer yet. Just come and find out more. If you want to find out more, just do more research before you stick your hand in there. There's no pressure to join something immediately. If you want to find out more, come along to a meeting. See what's going on. If you don't like it, go to a different one next time. You don't need to join the first team that you go and have a look at. Shop around. It's about choosing a club. Pick one that suits you if you want to do that. So, shop around a little bit, see what piques your interest, see what team you like working with. They're all on Zoom. You do them all from home. So, if you've got an interest, just ask someone. Come along to meetings.
Thank you, Eric. Robert.
Yeah, thank you. Following on from Eric's comment, I haven't checked the district website tonight, but I'll put a pound to a penny that the district committee meetings are not listed on the district website for people to find out when they're going to be.
You're not wrong, Robert. In fact, you're absolutely correct.
And I think that is something that this district is a little bit guilty about, and putting up information on the district calendar, not only for this year, but for the next year. I've been complaining about this more than once over several years, that when you get to a certain time in the year, you want to know what's happening next year. You can't even find out the date of the council meeting until you get into the year of concern. And I think that is wrong too. So if you're going to get people to show an interest, then make it easy for them to show that interest and find out that you're actually trying to be professional about things. Sorry if you think I'm bleating on a subject, but
no, I think what you,
point for me.
The point you're making is a very valid one. The two people who deal with that are both here on the screen. That's Richard Cooper and me, and we will take note of that and see what we can do about getting the calendar more current. But we are dependent on people giving us information about when the meetings are, so that we can then put them up there. No problem about putting them up if people let us know.
Well, we can make that request of the team leaders as well, Robert. So you will ask them to plan ahead and get the dates into Roger so he can get them on. So if there's more than one person in the chain, so we'll start from the beginning and push everyone to get the dates together, then get Roger to put them on for us. So I'll take that as a task from tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments or questions? Then I think I'm going to ask Eric if he would make any final remarks and then close the meeting for us.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone who was taking the time to come along and find out a little bit more. Whether you knew a little or a lot at the beginning doesn't really matter. If you know more at the end than you did at the beginning, then we've been successful, haven't we? So that's good. Just nice to see so many people here. We didn't know if we were going to be talking to ourselves tonight or have people to actually talk to. So that's quite nice that you've actually come along to find out a little bit more. Thank you to Roger for what he's put into prepping it. Thank you to everyone that's been interviewed publicly tonight about their Rotary career so far. So thank you all for sharing that, guys. So yeah. If you got any more questions, drop me an email, drop Roger an email. Look on the district website in a few weeks and there'll be some more dates on there for you. We promise. We will do that for you. If you want to find out more, just ask us. You are all available. We're all around. If you go to the district directory, our email addresses are all there, so you will find us. And thank you all for your time tonight. And the storm has passed. It's quite calm outside now, so no floods and no hailstones. It's quite calm in Warrington now. So
good. Thank you very much. From my point of view, thank you, Tony, Phil, and Paul, for contributing to that. Your contributions were just right, and I do thank you all for taking part in it. Thank you, everybody, and good night.